All right, I remembered that Mr. Halls had got somebody killed him with a hatchet. In a little while, he said, "Boy, we got plenty of time. It ain't no need of nobody being in no hurry. But I'm just gonna be poking along."
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Hayden, Alabama podcast. I'm Philip.
I'm Shane.
Terry.
Gerald.
Mr. Terry and Mr. Gerald join us today with a career in trucking, big 18-wheelers, big rigging, and then also farming and produce. And they've got some life experiences that'll really tickle your heart. So without further ado, we're going to get to telling some stories.
Yeah, Gerald and Terry are actually kinfolks of mine. They've known me ever since I was born. And Gerald tells quite a few stories about some of our kinfolk.
Uncle Fate Hayes. He was my mother's uncle by marriage. He married one of Grandpa Thomas's sisters.
Yeah.
And he lived right back down here.
Mm-hmm.
And he walked a lot to where he went. One day he walked up to Grandpa Thomas's, which Grandpa lived on Jim Thomas Road over here, which that road's named after him.
Right.
Well, he had to come by where you go to church there. What do you call it?
Union Grove.
Union Grove. He had to come by Union Grove Baptist Church, and several years ago there was a Methodist church that's about 50 or 60 yards this side.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was. I still remember when the building was there.
Okay. I
Well,
didn't know that.
I know either.
Uncle Fate come up there telling, said, I walked by the church, and they was both having church. They'd come by the Baptist church, and they was singing, "Will there be any stars in my crown and my crown? Will there be any stars in my crown?" And so they walked on out there by the Methodist church, and they were singing, "No, not one, no, not one."
No stars in your crown.
Done told on him, hadn't he?
Not on
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you don't think they was telling him no, not one, because they knew who he was, did you?
Oh, I don't know.
That may have been Lord talking to him.
Just the Lord
Could
talking
be.
to him. Did you have a CB handle, Terry?
Boss man.
The Boss Man.
Yeah.
So we have Wild Man and Boss Man right here on the
That's right.
On the show.
In person.
yeah.
I ain't lying.
I ain't a line. That's where I get that from, right? 'Cause there's several tales that we've heard over the years, and I look and I say, "Come on now,
Hard to believe.
that's hard to believe." But then you hear them and they say, "I ain't a line."
Double down on the truth.
I went and got my hair cut this week down at Joe Young's. My cousin Judith cuts my hair, and of course she is asking about the podcast and all. And I told her, who we had coming up, and she said, "Now you have to tell them now on that podcast they ain't nothing but the truth told on the Hayden Alabama podcast." And I said, "Wait a minute,
Let me tell you, Daryl got called out
Daryl did."
on Facebook. They said that dynamite story sounded like it wasn't true.
That's what the man said. So don't be telling those stories that sound like they might be untrue now.
Oh, I ain't gonna do that.
So you got one of your trucking stories.
Well, yeah, I was gonna tell about the frog foots if that's the only one to tell. I got a good one about Uncle Short. But
Well, let's
it ain't
hear
trucking.
it. That's all right.
No, you ain't got to
trucking.
be about trucking. You tell good stories. That's what we're here
Yeah.
for.
Uncle Short. If Uncle Short's a good one, we want to hear it.
Well, it is. He, he liked to ride around with his buddies and drink and all and cut up. Well, he was my mother's brother. Mm-hmm. And there was several of them out. Uncle Short, Tom Colwell, Gene Blaylock, and Doc Mark. May have been another two with them. They was out riding around one night, and they was into the spirits, And,
The little S spirits.
yeah. And State Trooper George Brown stopped them up there close to Cleveland that night and made all of them get out of the car. And little Doc Mark was driving. Mm-hmm. When they all got out, the trooper made a comment about, "Well, looks like the driver's the drunkest one of the bunch." Uncle Short said, yeah, he is. He's the drunkest of all of us. Said he got too drunk to sing, so we put him to driving.
You got to know your place in the world, don't you?
Reassign him.
Look, if you can't hold your tune, you got to go over and drive a little bit.
That's
understandable.
hilarious.
But if it's okay, I'll tell you one about the frog foot.
Let's hear it.
Just a few seconds.
That's all right. Let's hear it.
There's a good little old Cajun restaurant down at Henderson, Louisiana on I-10. Mm-hmm. Had a lot of truck parking and all, and I used to stop there at mealtime and eat because it's real good. They really cooked all kinds of swamp food good, and there's these two drivers driving a moving van. They'd got out of their truck right ahead of me and walked in, and you'd walk in there and go up to the counter and look at the menu, make your order, pay, and then you'd go back there and sit down. They cooked it right after you ordered, and they'd bring it out to you. Well, they were standing up there with one in front was looking at the menu, and he read frog legs down there on the menu, and he turned around to the other and said, "Man, they got frog foots here."
Oh, fried frog foots.
Yeah.
Well, if they got frog foots, we got to try one or two. Yeah. I can honestly say I ain't ever ate a frog foot.
Boy, I got tickled. I had to bite my lips to keep from blurting out.
Yeah, oh, man.
Now, I've had plenty of frog legs now, boss man.
But right on down below there's the foot.
Right on down below
That's
there's
right.
the foot, and I ain't had never bite of them.
Yep.
Sure hadn't.
I'll tell Psalm 1 I want to. It's the how you spell truth.
The TRUFF.
No, the truth.
With TH.
That's truth.
Truth.
Truth. All right, Daddy. I don't know who got it out of the mailbox, but Daddy got a letter addressed to him. First, y'all need to know that Bangor was the post office. There wasn't no post office.
Right.
Bangor Route 1.
Route 1.
Route 1, Bangor, Alabama.
The rural route.
Yeah, it's still pretty rural, but anyhow.
It was real rural then. Wasn't
Yeah,
it?
and anyhow, I got that letter that with the address on it was Mr. Thomas with the peach orchard and the 10 boys. Route 1, Bangor, Alabama.
That's how it was addressed.
And that's how we got it. Yep. Mother kept that thing for a long time. Yeah.
She was proud of that.
Yeah.
Of course, you say, 10 boys, that narrows it down just a little
Yeah,
bit.
And the peach orchard.
And the peach orchard. Very
And the
specific.
10 boys.
What was the letter for?
It was the best I remember. It was wanting to know when Georgia Bells was going to be right.
Oh, wouldn't know when
A
the
certain peach.
When can we
You've
come
heard
pick
of
up-
Georgia Bells?
I have. I got a funny story about peaches, certain peaches. Y'all remember Jake Washburn?
Oh, yeah.
He had plenty. He grew plenty of. Well, that's all he did is truck farm all his life. Well, back on, 60s, early 70s, the farmers market in Birmingham was the place to be. Mm-hmm. If you had to sell fruits or vegetables, that's the place to sell them. Well, he was down there on the market. He had him a load of peaches, and these ladies coming by, and they'd say, I'm looking for these peaches. Oh yeah, we got them right here. He'd go over and he'd get him a bag and put it right in there, and then the next folks come by and say, "Hey, we're looking for the early girl peaches." Oh, I got them right over here. Got them back. He sold out of every peach he had, and every one of them was the same type
exactly
peach.
right.
Whatever they
Whatever you
wanted, he
need,
had them.
I got them.
This is a peach, and
Them
it's
folks
what
did-
you're looking for.
Well, and that's the reality. Most folks don't know what they're asking for or what they're wanting.
No.
They just heard somebody say it.
yeah.
And them farmers, they's just gonna sell them a peach, buddy. Here, yeah, you'll like these. And they'd try, or he'd even cut them open. Here, just try them. That's exactly the ones I'm looking for. Found them.
Now, riding the road that many miles that you did, I know you've seen some crazy things.
Oh, gosh. Yes,
because
I
you're
have.
sitting up tall, looking down at all us in the
Our lowlies.
lowly folk. Mm-hmm. Tell me one of the craziest things you ever saw riding in that truck.
I can't tell you.
You can't tell me?
No.
Well, you got one that maybe just dialed down a little bit. You might could
A
tell.
little bit.
Well, if you cut this off, I could tell
Yeah,
you.
you cut it off, I could tell you.
Well, you got one you can tell that a kid might could listen to.
I was trucking across 278 one day on my way to Gadsden with a load of coal years ago. And there's this old man and woman passed me, had an Arkansas tag on their car. and they had the back window rolled down about that far. And there's an old cat standing up in the window looking. Well, about right after they got beat by me, that old cat jumped out of the car.
He gone.
And went on. Well, I got them stopped about a half a mile on down the road, and I told them that old woman, she'd done miss a cat, and she was about to cry. I said, well, your cat got out about a half mile back up the road up there. And she said, well, I told Homer not to leave that window cracked that much. That cat never did like to ride anyway.
It never liked to ride anyway.
Told Homer not to leave that cat in there. That's what did you say that? I was heading to work one day back when I used to work in Birmingham, and I was riding behind this vehicle, and I looked under it. I said, what is underneath that thing? It was just a ball or something. We got down there about Malfunction Junction. It rode for 5 or 6 miles from Fultondale down to Malfunction Junction. And here in a minute, I seen fur just flying. The old cat had finally give up, got tired of holding on, I guess, and it just rolled down the interstate. Fur's going everywhere.
I don't think that cat made it.
No, he did make it. He caught his feet and took off across the interstate. Didn't get hit. Just
You mean 70 miles an hour? It drops off.
That was on his 8th lap.
Yeah, he's on his 8th lap. He must have been. He did. There's fur flying everywhere. He caught his feet and shot across the interstate.
They're tough animals.
I promise you, he didn't make it back. And there ain't no way he made it back home because there ain't no telling where that vehicle would come from.
That old cat that jumped out of that car, they wasn't going there probably 55 miles an hour, but that old cat done some slipping, sliding, and tumbling.
Do you have one
You
about?
fixing to tell one about it, Uncle Walt?
Yeah, I was going to.
Go ahead on.
Y'all get through. In 1956, Daddy bought the Beacon Motel on Laguna Beach, Panama. Well, off Panama City. Y'all know where Laguna Beach is, I'm sure. It's Beacon Sandpiper now.
Oh my goodness!
But it's old. It's all together. It was just. I think it had 30-something units, and painted pink and white. And but that's not the story. The story is, out of the blue, General, my daddy, he said, Terry, go fill up that newest pickup. It was a 56 Ford pickup. Go fill it up with gas and go pick up your Uncle Walt. That's all he said. I said, yes, sir. So I filled it up with gas and went to Warrior. And his house was right across from this international church. That's where his house was, right there on the hill. Anyhow, I went and picked him up. He come out with a shotgun and a .38 pistol, and got in and told me where to go. Head toward Birmingham.
Head towards Birmingham.
And you couldn't. When you stopped at a red, don't peck. When you stopped at a red light, I don't care how hard you're trying to take off just as it turns green, you couldn't beat him. He said, let's go.
He's ready to go.
Every time. 100% of the time. You stop at a red light, and before you could take off, he'd say, let's go.
He made sure he knew you were supposed to be going.
Yeah, but anyhow, nobody told me what we was doing.
Yeah.
We went to the First National Bank in Birmingham, and it was somewhere around 2nd Avenue North. It's a big, tall building. And he told me where to pull into the parking lot. What the deal was, Daddy was borrowing $35,000 from me. And in money today, that'd be $500,000.
Yeah.
At least. And I know they had ways that he could handle it different. The money was going to the State National Bank in Aniana, where the money was going to. And it could have been handled on paper or something, but Uncle Walt, he had to get it. So he went down there. He come out of the bank with a big sack, which I never looked in the sack.
Didn't take a look in there, Terry.
That's where the money was at. And he laid the pistol beside of me. Said, can you shoot that pistol? I said, yeah. I said, that's kind of like one Daddy's got. I've shot it a lot. And he had the shotgun.
Yeah.
He said, let's go to Aniana. So we delivered that $35,000 to Auntie Anna.
You almost felt like you was riding stagecoach back in the old days, wasn't you?
But that was,
He's working for Wells Fargo.
Wells Fargo.
But that was something. Mr. Halls over at Blount Springs, he was like, if you leave your church and come up there toward Hayden, just about 200 yards up there was a road that went to the left. That went up on Halls Mountain, which was a peach orchard back then. All right, I remembered that Mr. Halls had got somebody killed him with a hatchet. He had some.
That's personal.
Somebody got serious.
He had some game chickens down behind his house, and he went down there one night to feed them and never come back. And I don't know that whole story. They finally,
So that's his election.
they arrested an old black man for it, but he didn't. They wasn't sure it was him, and they never did really stick him.
Yeah.
Because he didn't stay in the pen very long, or they let him out. But I remember that, and there were several.
Yeah, I remember when that.
There was probably still 40 acres of good orchard up there. And so I decided to cut through 69. It ain't like it is now, but anyhow, that's the way I come out and come to Blount Springs and went up on a mountain. I was going to look and see what the peaches looked like. And everything I saw was still green and about that big and clean. You know, it wasn't like you just thought somebody had been taking care of them, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Somebody had built a pasture fence all the way around that land, and I couldn't drive all the way over in there. I had to stop at the fence. And I walked over and looked at the peaches. They looked good. And I'm thinking, where can I fill up a spray machine? Where Mr. Halls used to fill it up at a spring there, there wasn't no water there anymore. So I saw this little road going down the hill toward 31 Highway. Little
Pig trail.
yeah. And so I walked down there, and there was a nice little pond down there about 50 yards. I said, well, here's where whoever took care of these peaches last had been filling up the spray machine. And this was back when very few deer in this country.
Yeah.
If you seen a track, it's like right now you seen an 8-pointer,
Yeah,
12
just seeing a track.
Just seeing a track.
Yeah.
And so there was a cow trail going down from that pond, and I decided I'm going to walk down this trail a little while and see if I see any deer tracks. So I'm walking down that trail, just looking down, walking on down the trail, looking down, and about that time I looked up a little, and I saw a bunch of sacks, empty paper bags, big sacks, thrown over, and I said, man, I don't know what that is. Ain't nobody been spraying these peaches. And I walked a little bit further, and I was right between 3 big vats of Wildcat whiskey.
They was filling some sprayers up, but it wasn't for the peaches, was it?
Makes it peach moonshine.
I didn't panic yet.
Yeah.
I done about face just like I did when I was in the Army. I done about face, and I walked slowly, calmly back to the pond. And they was about straight up, almost, going up into the field. I bet it was that steep, about 40 or 50 yards. Man, I had to hang on because my legs was going.
Yeah.
and I run up that hill wide open. And I run about 40 yards out in the field and collapsed.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just like a jet taking off and running out of fuel.
You was running out of fuel.
I didn't, so I got
Adrenaline doesn't run out.
I got a pocket knife in one hand, and there's a big old peach limb about that big around limb there where it'd been sawed off. And I got it in the other hand, and it was getting close to dark. And I thought, they may get me, which I hadn't seen nobody.
Yeah. But you know they was around there somewhere.
Somebody was somewhere, but I said, they may get me, but they're going to be a fight.
They're going to have to fight.
And so I laid there and rested a little bit, and I got up and started walking toward the truck, which was about a quarter of a mile from where I was at. And it's getting dark, and I thought about cutting through. Gerald, you remember where Uncle Joe Swan, that place was?
Yeah.
All right.
Grandpa's
Uncle Joe's
on the
farm.
mountain.
Yeah. Anyhow, I was thinking about cutting through there and coming out over what you call coal, but we called it Homer Lewis coal.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyhow, but I said, if I get off in them big woods, it's going to get dark on me and I may get lost. So I decided to trust it and go to my truck. And I walked to my truck. And after I got that truck turned around, if anybody got in the way, they'd got run over.
You got it turned around and got out of Dodge.
I come on out of there, and Cracker Black, he just happened to be the main man in my book.
Yeah.
But Cracker Black, the real Cracker Black, he was running that little store that's still there now. Only they're not a real store there.
Yeah.
You know, they're not a store. I don't know what it is now, but it was a store then.
Used to be.
And Cracker was running it. And I stopped there to get me a cold drink. Cracker said, "Hey, Terry, man, I ain't seen you in a long time." And I don't think I saw him in several years. And I said, "No, I hadn't saw you either, Cracker. What are you doing over here?" And I said, "Well, I've been up on Hall's Mountain and look at them peaches, see if I might be able to talk to Miss Halls, you know, and spray them and pick them and everything." And he said, "What they look like?" And I said, "There were some good peaches up there." But I believe Cracker knew.
I wouldn't doubt it.
He might have known a little
I believe
inside
Cracker
information.
knew, you know.
What was going on in the peach orchard.
Y'all, all right. Y'all know where the old big white mansion is? Go up 31 Highway.
Yes.
To Blount Springs.
On
There's
26.
See, me and Gerald remembers when there's 8
no,
or
on
10
31.
mansions left
Yeah.
Several
in
of them.
Blount Springs. Maybe not that many, but 5 or 6 anyhow. This steel was straight up behind that. That's where they was going in and out there. But I'm going to tell you one thing. I didn't tell nobody. Well, I told Glenn Bagwell, my dad-in-law, but I didn't go call the law, or I didn't tell nobody.
No, because you didn't want a target on your back, did you?
No.
Just leave that alone.
Just let that lay.
All right, this is a little bit of add to the story. Probably 5 years later, when we come over to Mother's for the get-together, Daddy had done been passed away a few years, and we come over to Mother on Christmas for the get-together, and a lot of times we'd have our shotguns and we'd go in the woods to see if we could jump a deer or something. And I suggested that we go to Hall's Mountain. I remember it's Paul and James and Johnny Burt and Alan Franklin. Might have been another. Larry Joe was probably in the bunch. If he knew it, he was.
If he knew it, he was in the
Anyhow,
bunch.
we all went up there and just stalking a little to see if we might jump a deer. And I said, let's go down there where that steel is. I ain't scared to go down there. 5 or 6 of us were shot.
There's a pile of
And
us.
it had been busted up for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I don't know when it got busted up, but it had been busted up for probably 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
What does
down.
busted up mean? Give
The
us a
law had
description.
come in and cut it up with axes and
Cut
stuff
the
where you couldn't
steels up,
reuse
the
it.
tanks and all up.
Yeah.
Basically, it is. They just whacked them tanks, some copper tanks, real good, where it was too wide a gap for them to patch it back up.
Oh yeah. It's just tore it up. In other words, they used axes. And
I got one more little
Everything.
Uncle Fate tale. Won't take me but a couple of minutes
You
if
tell
y'all want
it.
to hear it. Well, him and Uncle Felix, which we called him Uncle Red because he was red-headed and all, his mother's uncle, Felix was. They'd been to Birmingham in an old Model A car. Coming back, they had a flat there along about Morris, somewhere along
Yeah.
in there. And they got out, and Uncle Felix said, "Well, Fate, what are we going to do? We don't have a jack. We can't change that tire without a jack." Fate said, "Well, let's pray about it, Felix." So they got down, and Uncle Fate started praying. Said, "Lord, this is Fate Hayes. If you can hear me up there, me and my brother-in-law, Felix Thomas, were broke down here and need some help." So we got through praying, and they got up, and Uncle Felix said, "Well, Fate, I doubt if we'll get any help now. You told him who we are.
Identified you.
Yeah, if you would have kept that part quiet, we might have fixed that flat tire for us. That's funny. Now, Gerald, you wasn't here last week when we talked to Terry, and he told us about running past the graveyard.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
You remember? He said you was in the bunch.
Yes, I was.
He didn't allude that you might have been the one that broke, but he just said somebody broke.
No, I think Pat Adams was the one that
Pat
broke first. Yeah.
I have no idea who broke.
Or it might have
I
been
know.
Bobby Joe. You know, Bobby Joe was spending the night with me that
I
night.
know, and y'all forgot to stop at your house.
He just kept running right on by.
It might have been Bobby Joe that broke first, but anyway, just like a covey of quail.
Just gone. You got some more, Terry? If you remember some, let's hear them. Now's the time to tell them. After we leave, we can't hear them.
All right, Blount Springs.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back
Yep.
in the 1800s.
Woo!
Yeah.
We're going long.
Mine and Gerald's
I
great
don't
grand.
remember much about that.
I know what I know because mine, your grandma told us. They lived on Halls Mountain. Mm-hmm. And she was a Gillum. It was our great grandpa Gillum. Lived up on Halls
They lived
Mountain.
in the Gillum Bend over here.
Yeah, but this time, when I'm telling about they lived on Halls
I
Mountain,
never did know they lived on Halls Mountain.
That's my same.
you didn't ask Grandma.
Same grandpa, Gillum.
All
That's
I know,
my
Grandma
same
told us
one.
about it. Anyhow, Grandma was a little girl. Back then, they had saloons,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, Bangor was a county seat of Blount County.
I didn't know that.
They had jailhouses, hotels, Bangor Cave, and all that.
I do know the Bangor Cave was, and Blount Springs was rocking. It was a completely different
Back
world.
then. But anyhow, Grandma tell us all about it, and they had what they called a surrey. It was a fancy wagon of some kind that you come on over to Ward Hayden. There was a road went up to the railroad, and they had some kind of building there, and people come from all over the country to Blount Springs to spend time and everything, you know.
On the railroad.
And they'd send the Surrey would carry the band up there, and they'd be playing. The band would be playing when the people got off the train, and they would haul them back down to Blount Springs. But getting on to the story, when the grandpa was a constable,
Grandpa Swan was.
but this is Grandpa Gillum.
Gillum one run the taxi service. According to Grandma Swan, it hauled people from the train to the hotels. Grandpa Swan was a constable at Blount Springs.
Maybe she lied.
Go ahead and finish.
Go ahead, Terry.
Go ahead and finish it. You go.
According to her story, they lived on Halls Mountain. And
Maybe she
and
lied.
when the rough people got real rough
Yeah.
down there, and trying to cut up, and you know they got too drunk and trying to raise cane, cut up, they'd send word for Grandpa to come,
Yeah.
and he'd come down there, and all he had to do was tell them to go home,
Right.
and they'd go home. And I remember one time, Paul, my brother, asked Grandma, said, "How tall was Grandpa?" And she said, 6'8".
Woo.
He said, "Ain't no wonder they went home."
No
6,
kidding.
8. My land.
Well, the way I heard it, Grandma Swan told me, you know, Grandpa Gillum died at 42 years old.
Well, I didn't say how old he was.
Well, I know it. But Grandma Swan said she was raised in the Gillum Bend over here by her mother.
Yeah, I knew they was
After
raised
the
in
grandpa
Gillum
died.
Bend.
But she told me that Grandpa Swan, George Swan, was a constable of Blount Springs.
A constable.
Yeah.
Now, folks that don't know what a constable is,
That's the lawman in the
the
city.
lawman. That's the one that enforces the law. Pretty much a sheriff, but not a
And George Swan lived on Halls Mountain. And Daddy took me where the house place was up there one day and showed me.
Well, take us back in that time a little bit. You said that Bangor, Alabama, Blount Springs, Alabama used to be hopping. It was the county seat.
it
Where were all the
was.
buildings at?
When they had the Bangor Cave opened,
There's a gambling hall, wasn't
Gambling
it?
hall.
I
yeah.
went and looked at the face of it one time. Never been in it.
Yeah, the county seat was at at Bangor.
Well, where was
Back
all
in
the buildings?
Oh, there
all
was a bunch
around.
of- All
but,
around.
I mean, we're not old enough to really know. But
There's about
our
4
mother
or
and
5.
daddy and grandmas and all them knew.
They did.
But they just been tore down, I guess.
Yeah, most of them had. When me and him was growing up, way back in our younger days, there was about 4 or 5 stores at Bangor.
Yeah.
Well, there's an old church still standing back there, and it's probably late.
Yeah, that's a
1800,
Methodist
right?
church. It's standing on the right of 31 up on the hill. Right
I
up
remember the
one of
first
them,
time I ever went in Bangor Cave, there was an old piano still in there.
in the
Not
cave.
playable, yeah. And part of the floor where they burned it out. See, in the 30s is when they raided it and burned it out.
Yeah, Sheriff Ed Miller blew that place up.
Yeah, and I met his niece and sold her one of my books. About Ed
Well, I
Miller's in my book as a sheriff of Blount County.
I knew
Me and
his
Terry
son.
and Gerald and thought Ed Miller was God almost. Ed Miller was a sheriff,
He was the law man. He laid down the law.
and he didn't wear no uniform. He just wore regular clothes, and he didn't wear no pistol on his side.
I knew his
But
son.
You used to see the old railroad tracks. It was, obviously CSX runs through there still, but it used to run up and down 31. I mean, that was railroad.
That was railroad tracks. Well, I didn't know that.
That was
Yeah.
That was where the old railroad went. I think it was L&N or something at that point.
Yeah,
in
the
time.
L&N, yeah.
And
Big Walt was the engineer on the land.
Really?
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Oh, you notice in my book,
I guess
Big Walt Thomas out of Warrior was it the throttle on the Hummingbird.
on the Hummingbird.
You look up the Hummingbird. That was a fancy, one of the
Machine.
fanciest
train.
trains, passenger train.
Yeah.
And that thing had run 90, 100 mile an hour.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they brought them from all over the place down here to Blount Springs, and they would, what they was coming down here for was go dip in that stinking sulfur water.
Yeah.
As a kid, I couldn't stand going by and smelling that. It just
Yeah.
smells like rotten eggs. But that's what they'd pile in there, going in there and dipping and
They got in their mind that it would help them.
bathing.
I drank
and-
some of that water.
Have you ever drank it?
It's just like you wouldn't want to drink it.
Yeah,
all
wouldn't
the
They
time,
used to
but
claim it
They
as
used to
healthy.
bottle it and ship it.
Yeah. Hey, do you ever seen the old Blount Springs bottles? Those
blue
blue
ones?
ones, man, they're beautiful.
That's what they ship the water in.
There's a
Them
bunch.
blue
They're
bottles.
worth a bunch of money if you get one. The old bottles.
I guess.
I ain't never found
gonna
one.
buy one.
I don't think I'm gonna buy one either.
It's just junk, for
That's right. Just junk.
Our grandpa Thomas and our grandpa Swan and some of the Johnsons up on Hog Mountain used to haul produce, and Uncle Fate Hayes used to haul produce from here to Birmingham on a mule and a wagon. Yeah. They'd get their produce gathered, like today, and sometime after dinner they'd take off, and they'd get down to what's the name of them springs down there?
Down there right this side of Morris there.
Walker Springs.
No, there's something else. I can't remember.
Anyhow, they get down there and they camp out, that night, and then they'd go on in and there was a store. We can remember when there was a store on nearly every block in Birmingham. It wasn't a big store, but it was a store. Grocery store where you buy groceries and all
Little
kind
old
of
mom and stop stores
yeah.
all over.
But anyhow, of course, you know how it was then. And a lot of times they sell out before they ever got to the market.
Sell as they go down through there.
Yeah. But the part of the story there's two parts of it. Doc Johnson, he couldn't talk plain. He couldn't talk plain. But boy, I heard Mother tell a many story on him. But anyhow, he would he was one of them kind that was going to be first, fizz anyway. Doc would get up that morning when they was going on into the market, and he'd get up before everybody else, and And now, boys, and they'd always cook breakfast, you know, before they go in. Now, boys, it ain't no need to be in no hurry now. We got plenty of time. But I'm just gonna go ahead and gear up.
Yeah.
Gear up his mule.
Gear up.
Yeah,
Gear up.
I'm just gonna go ahead and gear up. And so he go ahead and gear up and everything, need his breakfast. And then in a little while he said, boy, we got plenty of time. It ain't no need of nobody being in no hurry, but I'm just gonna be poking along. And most of the time, if they all went on into town, they'd meet him heading home.
Yeah, heading on. He done sold out,
So
coming to the house.
yeah.
Done made his money coming to the house.
And I heard Mother tell a lot of time about Doc lived over on Hog Mountain. Mm-hmm. You know Leon Johnson, don't you? That's his grandpa.
Okay.
Doc Johnson, that was his grandpa. Anyhow, and he would come across the holler. He would come across the holler to Oak Grove Mountain and visit, you know, just out of stalking around visiting. And Mother said many a time he made it to their house at dinner time. Mm-hmm. You know. And Herbert was our grandpa, and he'd say, Doc, come on in here and eat. Now we got plenty. No, Herbert, I just ain't a bit hungry. I've been eating the peanut all day long. I just ain't a bit hungry. But he'd keep on at him, and he'd come in there, and he'd eat much as anybody.
Go ahead and fill him a plate. Well, while I'm here, I'm going to go
ahead. And one of his main jokes was, Herbert, do your folk like the backbone? And Grandpa would say, yeah, Doc, my folks they really like the backbone. Well, my folk just won't eat the backbone. They eat the meat off of it, throw the bone away.
That's funny.
Them stories come down the line. I ain't forgot them either.
Don't like the backbone, they eat the meat off
They
of
just
it.
eat the meat off, throw the bone away.
Now, Gerald, do you remember, I think Terry might have been there too, do you remember when you and Tyler and them went over to turkey hunting?
I'll tell you one of them, that was when we was hunting over Tuscaloosa County, is what you're talking about. I know one thing that happened was kind of funny. Sid, he's a good cook, but he just keeps adding so much flavor and everything that sometimes it ain't what you want. And one morning he cooked the eggs, and he had chopped tomatoes and all kind of stuff in the eggs. And old Danny Thrasher, you know, he was kind of the ramrod of that whole thing. And of course, I didn't like the eggs either, but I didn't say nothing. But then the next morning, old Danny said, Terry, how about you cook the scrambled eggs for me so I just can't eat them?
Can't eat them no more.
They wouldn't like you liked them.
Yeah, you go in there and scramble them before his Sid gets after it. That's funny.
Well, Mr. Gerald, Mr. Terry has told us some fine tales, took us back in time, especially the Blount Springs, and that's good, especially whether you're from here or not. That's just a community in the past, and just hearing about it when it was alive was a lot of fun. But that's going to do it this week at the Hayden Alabama Podcast. I'm Philip.
I'm Shane.
I'm Gerald.
And I'm Terry.
And we'll see you.
Terry or something.
One of these guys is Gerald, one of them's Terry. We'll see y'all next week.